The gunshot wound patient coding in Bay 3 should have been Dr. Kelly Parks's only crisis at 4 in the morning, but fate had other plans. The trauma bay doors exploded open with enough force to rattle the supply cabinets, and a voice cut through the organized chaos like a blade through silk, commanding, desperate, and wrapped in an accent that spoke of Seoul's elite districts. Kelly's hands never stopped working on her patient's chest compressions as she looked up, and what she saw made her forget to count the next compression. 3 men swept into Detroit Memorial's ER like a storm system, the 2 flanking guards moving with military precision, but the man between them, he was something else entirely. Mid-30s, wearing a suit that cost more than her car, with the kind of bone structure that belonged on magazine covers and the kind of eyes that belonged to someone who'd seen too much darkness. A dragon tattoo coiled up his neck, disappearing into his perfectly styled black hair. Behind them, an elderly Korean woman slumped in a wheelchair, her weathered face contorted in agony. "My mother needs help immediately," the man announced, not asked, his English flawless but his tone making it clear he was used to instant obedience. The entire ER seemed to hold its breath. Even Sarah, the charge nurse who'd worked trauma for 30 years and didn't flinch at anything, took an involuntary step backward. But Kelly had been on shift for 18 hours, had already lost 1 patient tonight, and was too exhausted for intimidation. "Clear," she called, delivering another shock to her coding patient. The monitor beeped steadily, rhythm restored. She stripped off her gloves. "I'm Dr. Parks. Tell me what's happening with your mother." Their eyes locked across the fluorescent-lit chaos, and something shifted in the air between them. He looked surprised, then something else flickered across his features, something almost like relief. Shin Joo Min was not a man accustomed to surprise. At 37, he'd built an empire from his father's bloody legacy, commanded respect through reputation alone, and learned to read people in the seconds before deciding their fate. But this woman, this exhausted doctor with intelligent dark eyes and natural curls escaping from a ponytail that had long since given up, she looked at him like he was just another worried son. Not a threat. Not a monster. Just human. "Severe abdominal pain," he said, his composure cracking slightly. 2 hours now. "She has gallbladder issues, history of stones." Kelly was already moving, gesturing to her team. "Bay 7, I need full vitals, for access, labs, and get me surgery on standby." She looked at the 2 guards. "You 2 stay in the waiting room." "Sir, you can come with us, but you follow my rules in there." "Understood." Shin Joo Min, who hadn't been given orders by anyone in over a decade, found himself nodding. His men looked shocked, but when he raised a hand, they stopped at the threshold without protest. In Bay 7, Kelly worked with the kind of practiced efficiency that came from years of training and necessity. Her hands were gentle as she examined the elderly woman, her voice soothing even though the patient clearly didn't speak English. "Mrs. Shin, I'm Dr. Parks. I'm going to take good care of you. Can you show me exactly where it hurts?" The older woman responded in rapid Korean, her voice weak. Joo Min translated immediately, his hand holding his mother's with surprising tenderness. "Right upper abdomen, radiating to her back and shoulder blade." "Acute cholecystitis," Kelly murmured, already suspecting the diagnosis. "Mrs. Shin, I'm going to give you something for the pain right now." "Sir, I need you to step back about 3 feet so we can get her 4 started." Shin Joo Min, he said it like he expected recognition, perhaps fear. Kelly just nodded, focused on the 4 catheter. "Mr. Shin, please step back." For a man who controlled territory through 3 states and had people executed for lesser disrespect, being ordered around by a 5'4" doctor in rumpled scrubs should have been infuriating. Instead, Joo Min found himself obeying, watching this woman work with a confidence that had nothing to do with violence and everything to do with competence. She was beautiful, he realized, even under the harsh lights and obvious exhaustion. Rich dark skin, expressive eyes that softened when speaking to his mother, full lips curved in reassurance. When she leaned over to assess the foresight, he noticed the delicate silver necklace at her throat, the way even shapeless scrubs couldn't quite hide her figure. Got it, the nurse announced. Excellent. Push 4 of morphine and get her to imaging. CT abdomen with contrast, priority. Kelly touched his mother's hand gently. The pain will ease soon, I promise. His mother said something in Korean, her eyes on Kelly's face. Joo Min felt something tighten in his chest. She says you have healing hands, that she can see your kind soul. Kelly felt unexpected warmth spread through her fatigue. Tell her that's very sweet, and tell her she raised a good son who clearly loves her very much. As they wheeled Mrs. Shin toward radiology, Joo Min stayed behind, watching Kelly update the chart with swift, precise movements. She could feel his gaze on her, that heavy attention that made her hyper-aware of every movement. You're very skilled at your job, Dr. Parks. She glanced up, surprised by the sincerity cutting through his commanding tone. Thank you. Your mother will be fine. Once we confirm with imaging, we'll have our best surgeon remove her gallbladder. Mr. Shin, I need to ask, when did you last sleep? The personal question caught her off guard. His eyes traced the shadows under her eyes, the way she leaned against the counter for support. That's not really relevant to my mother's care. It's relevant to whether you're being taken care of while you take care of everyone else. It was too personal, too observant, but his tone wasn't predatory or inappropriate, just genuinely concerned. Long enough to do my job properly, she said firmly, then softened. I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. Being functional isn't the same as being fine. Before she could respond, her pager went off with another trauma alert. I have to go. Your mother should be back in about 40 minutes. There's a family waiting room down the hall. I'll wait here. Kelly recognized that immovable tone. She nodded and rushed off, feeling his eyes follow her until she turned the corner. Joo Min watched her disappear into the chaos, something unfamiliar stirring behind his carefully constructed walls. In his world, everyone fit into categories, assets or threats, useful or disposable. He'd built his empire on reading weaknesses and exploiting them without hesitation. But this woman looked at him with nothing but professional courtesy, commanded respect through competence rather than fear, touched his mother with such genuine care. She didn't fit any category. She was something else entirely. Dangerous, not because of what she could do to him, but because of what she made him feel, human, vulnerable, like maybe the blood on his hands could be washed clean under the warmth of her compassion. When Mrs. Shin returned from imaging, Kelly met them with results on her tablet. But her expression had changed, there was something darker in her eyes now, something troubled. Mr. Shin, I need to speak with you privately for a moment. Joo Min's entire body tensed. What's wrong? She led him to a consultation room, closing the door. Your mother does have acute cholecystitis and needs surgery. But Mr. Shin, I found something else in her blood work. She pulled up lab results. There are traces of arsenic in her system. Not acute poisoning, but chronic low-level exposure over weeks, maybe months. The room went cold. What are you saying? I'm saying someone has been poisoning your mother. The gallbladder attack might have been triggered by the cumulative toxic effects. I've already reported this to hospital security as required by law, but I wanted you to know first. Kelly's eyes held his. Mr. Shin, your mother's life is in danger, and not just from her gallbladder. Joo Min's mind raced. Poisoning meant someone close, someone with regular access to his mother. Someone in his organization or household. Someone he trusted. How long until the police are involved? Hospital security is calling them now. Maybe 20 minutes. Kelly stepped closer. I don't know what kind of business you're in, but I recognize the signs. Those men with you aren't bodyguards for a legitimate businessman. Your mother said things under medication about protection, about territory, about blood debts. She took a breath. I'm not stupid, and I'm not going to pretend I don't understand what's happening here. But your mother needs surgery tonight, and she needs to be somewhere safe when she recovers. Joo Min studied her face, looking for judgment, for fear. He found only determination in something that looked almost like concern. Why are you telling me this? Why not just let the police handle it? Because in 20 minutes, you'll be dealing with questions you probably don't want to answer. Because your mother needs surgery, not an interrogation. And because. Kelly hesitated, then pushed forward. Because she reminds me of my grandmother, and no one should die from betrayal by someone they trust. Something cracked in Joo Min's carefully maintained facade. Dr. Parks, Kelly. Call me Kelly. She pulled out her personal phone. You have 20 minutes. I suggest you use them. I'll tell security the labs need to be rerun, buy you a little more time. But Mr. Shin, your mother still needs surgery tonight. Why would you do this for us? You don't know us. I know a son who loves his mother. That's enough. She moved toward the door, then paused. And Mr. Shin. When you find out who did this, please don't kill them in my hospital. We have enough trauma cases. The hint of dark humor in her voice, the acknowledgement of what he was without flinching, it made something dangerous bloom in his chest. Thank you, Kelly. Don't thank me yet. Just keep your mother safe. She slipped out, leaving Joo Min with a decision that would change everything. He pulled out his phone, texting Lee Suk, his second-in-command, code red. Mother was poisoned. Arsenic. Long-term exposure. Find out who had access. And Lee, get our legal team and our private surgical team to the hospital. We're moving her surgery private. Now. Within 15 minutes, everything was in motion. Joo Min's private surgeon arrived, arrangements were made to transfer his mother to a private surgical facility, and hospital security was politely stonewalled by lawyers who appeared like magic. Kelly watched it all unfold with a mixture of admiration and concern. This was the world she was glimpsing, where money and power could redirect entire institutions in minutes. As they prepared to transfer Mrs. Shin, Joo Min found Kelly in the hallway. I owe you a debt. You don't owe me anything. I was doing my job. Nevertheless. He pulled a business card from his wallet, held it out. If you ever need anything, anything at all, call this number. Kelly took the card, noting the embossed logo, some kind of corporation she didn't recognize. Just a phone number and his name, no title or details. That's very kind, but really. Please. His intensity pinned her in place. You saved my mother's life twice tonight. Once from her gallbladder, once from whoever is trying to kill her. In my culture, that debt is sacred. There was something in his eyes, something that made her think debt meant something different in his world than in hers, something binding and possibly dangerous. But she was too exhausted to analyze it. She pocketed the card. Keep your mother safe, Mr. Shin. And find out who did this. I will. His voice held a promise that sent shivers down her spine. Dr. Parks, Kelly, do you work tomorrow night? Red flags should have been waving. A patient's family member asking about her schedule was inappropriate at best, concerning at worst. But something in his tone wasn't predatory. Why do you ask? Because I'd like to bring you dinner as a thank you. You've been on your feet for over 20 hours. You helped my mother. Please let me do this one small thing. He smiled, and the transformation was startling, warmth breaking through that cold authority. I promise I'm not a serial killer. That surprised a laugh out of her, exhaustion making her guards drop. Well, that's reassuring. So you'll let me bring dinner? Every professional instinct told her to refuse. Every ounce of self-preservation warned her this man was dangerous in ways she didn't understand. But exhaustion made her reckless, or maybe it was the memory of his hand holding his mother's with such tenderness, or the way he'd said please like the word was unfamiliar in his vocabulary. Or maybe it was the darkness she'd glimpsed in his world, a darkness she understood more than she wanted to admit. One dinner. Here at the hospital during my break. His smile widened. Tomorrow night. What time? 8 o'clock. But Mr. Shin, nothing fancy. I mean it. As you wish, Kelly. As she walked away, Kelly wondered what she'd just agreed to. Her best friend Jasmine was going to lose her mind. You don't accept dinner from mysterious men with dangerous eyes and neck tattoos, even if they are devoted sons. But as she glanced back and saw him watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch, Kelly realized she'd already made her choice. She just didn't know yet how much that choice would cost her. Behind her, Joo Min watched her disappear around the corner, then pulled out his phone. Lee, tomorrow 8 p.m. I need the best Korean food in Detroit delivered hot. And flowers, what kind of flowers do women like? His second-in-command's response was immediate. Boss, are you feeling alright? Did you hit your head? Joo Min smiled despite himself. Just find out. And Lee, not a word of this to anyone. He looked at his phone screen, at the text that had just come through from Lee Suk. Boss, preliminary check complete. Only 5 people had regular access to your mother's food and medication. Sending encrypted list now. Joo Min opened the list, and his blood ran cold. One of the names on that list was someone he trusted for 15 years. Someone who'd been like family. Someone who would pay for this betrayal in ways they couldn't imagine. But first, he had a dinner to plan with a doctor who'd looked at him like he was worth saving. A doctor who'd just become the most dangerous liability in his life, because anyone trying to hurt him would now know exactly where to strike. He should stay away from her. Every logical bone in his body screamed it. But Shin Joo Min hadn't built an empire on logic alone. Sometimes you had to take risks. Sometimes you had to reach for something good, even when your hands were stained with blood. He looked at his mother's name on the transfer paperwork, thought about Kelly's kindness, and made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow night, he'd bring her dinner. And then he'd figure out how to keep her safe from the war he was about to start. What he didn't know was that Kelly Parks had her own secrets, her own debts, and her own reasons for understanding his dark world better than he could possibly imagine. The game was just beginning, and neither of them knew all the players yet. True to his word, Shin Joo Min appeared at exactly 8 o'clock the following evening, carrying enough food to feed 10 people and a bouquet of peonies that made the entire nurses' station stop and stare. Kelly, coming off a relatively calm shift, stopped short when she saw him in the break room doorway. He'd traded the severe suit for dark jeans and a crisp black shirt, top buttons undone, revealing a strong chest and that intricate Korean script tattoo trailing down his neck. His hair was slightly less perfect, and somehow that made him even more devastating. Mr. Shin, you actually came. Did you think I wouldn't? He set the bags on the break room table, and the smell of Korean barbecue, japchae, and kimchi filled the small space. I keep my promises, Dr. Parks. It's Kelly. And you really didn't need to bring this much food. I didn't know what you liked, so I brought options. He started unpacking containers with surprising ease. Also, my assistant informed me that bringing too little food is insulting in any culture, so I may have overcompensated. That made her laugh. She grabbed paper plates from the cabinet, hyper-aware of his presence in the small room. How's your mother? Safe. In a private facility with security I trust. His jaw tightened. And I found out who was poisoning her. Kelly's hand stilled. Already? I have resources. He met her eyes. It was my father's old advisor. Someone who'd been with our family for 20 years. He wanted to weaken me, make me seem unable to protect even my own mother. The pain in his voice was raw. I trusted him with everything. I'm so sorry. Kelly sat, accepting the plate he filled with practiced care. What will you do? What needs to be done? The coldness in his tone sent shivers down her spine. But that's not something you need to worry about. Joo Min, please, let's not talk about business tonight. I want one evening where I'm just a man having dinner with a beautiful woman, not a. He stopped himself. Not what I am the rest of the time. Kelly understood that desire more than he knew. She had her own reasons for wanting to forget reality for a few hours. Okay. One normal evening. They ate, and the food was incredible, authentic and clearly expensive, nothing like the Korean fusion places near her apartment. For 30 minutes, they talked about everything except the darkness that surrounded them both. He told her about growing up in Seoul before moving to Detroit, about his mother's obsession with K-dramas, about the first time he tried American pizza and thought something was wrong with his taste buds. She told him about medical school, about her younger sister who wanted to be a lawyer, about her grandmother who'd raised her after her parents died. It was easy, comfortable, and Kelly found herself laughing more than she had in months. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her entire body went rigid. The text was from a number she'd been dreading, payment due in 3 days. $5,000. Don't make us come find you again. Shin Joo Min noticed immediately. Everything okay? Fine. She forced a smile, turning the phone face down. Just a spam text. But her hands were shaking slightly as she picked up her fork, and Joo Min had built his empire on reading body language. Kelly, if something's wrong, it's nothing. Really? She changed the subject quickly. Tell me more about your mother. She seems like an incredible woman. He studied her for a long moment, clearly not believing her, but respected her boundary. She is. She held our family together after my father died. People underestimate her because she's small and soft-spoken, but she has a spine of steel. She'd have to raise you in that world. Kelly said it without thinking, then caught herself. Sorry, that was accurate. He smiled slightly. Yes, she had to be strong. Stronger than anyone knows. His phone buzzed then, and his expression darkened as he read the message. I'm sorry, I need to make a call. Give me 2 minutes. Of course. He stepped into the hallway, and Kelly could hear his voice through the door, rapid Korean, the tone sharp and commanding. She pulled out her phone and stared at the text from Harris. 3 days to come up with $5,000 she didn't have. 3 days before the threats became action. She'd been so stupid. 6 months ago, drowning in student loans and her grandmother's medical bills, she'd borrowed money from the wrong people. A friend of a friend who knew a guy who could help, no questions asked. She'd thought she could pay it back quickly. She'd been wrong. The interest had compounded, the threats had escalated, and now she owed money to people connected to Detroit's underworld. And Harris, her ex-boyfriend who'd introduced her to the loan sharks in the first place, was now their collector. The same Harris who'd become a cop, who now used his badge to intimidate her, who reminded her constantly that she had no way out. Kelly put her head in her hands, just for a moment, letting herself feel the weight of it. Then she straightened, pasted on a smile, and stood to clear the plates. She'd figure it out. She always did. Joo Min returned, his expression troubled. I'm sorry, something's come up with my mother's security. I need to go handle it. Of course. Thank you for dinner, it was really thoughtful. She walked him to the elevator. Joo Min, I hope everything's okay with your mother. It will be. He turned to face her fully. Kelly, I know we just met, but I feel like I can talk to you. Like you understand things other people wouldn't. I do understand. More than he knew. Can I see you again? Not as a patient son, but as someone who wants to know you better. Every rational part of her brain screamed no. This man was dangerous trouble wrapped in beautiful packaging. But her heart, her foolish, exhausted, desperate heart whispered yes. Because maybe someone like him, someone who understood darkness, was exactly what she needed. My shift ends at midnight. If you're still here, and you promise to answer one honest question, then yes. Deal. He was there at midnight, leaning against a sleek black Mercedes in the hospital parking lot like something out of a movie. Kelly approached cautiously, suddenly aware that she was alone with this man in a dark parking lot. "You waited. I said I would." He opened the passenger door. "Let me drive you home." "That's not necessary. It's nearly 1 in the morning and this neighborhood isn't safe. Please, Kelly. Let me do this." The use of her first name sent warmth through her. Against her better judgment, she got in the car, all leather and subtle luxury she couldn't begin to price. "Where do you live?" She gave him her address, and he pulled out smoothly. The city was quiet at this hour, streetlights painting everything in amber and shadow. "You said one honest question," he prompted. Kelly took a breath. "Are you in the Korean Mafia?" She felt rather than saw his surprise. "That's your question? Direct, aren't you?" "I work in a Detroit ER. I've seen enough to recognize the signs. Those men at the hospital, the way people react to you, the tattoos, the resources you mentioned. You're not just some businessman." Silence stretched between them. Joo Min's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes," he finally said. "I run an organization. We handle territory, protection, certain businesses that operate outside legal boundaries. My father built it on blood and fear. When he died, I inherited everything, the power, the enemies, the obligations." He glanced at her, and his eyes were hard, honest. "I've done things that would horrify you, Kelly. But I would never hurt you. That's a promise." "Why?" "That's 2 questions. Answer it anyway." He pulled up to her apartment building, a modest complex in a working-class neighborhood, worlds away from his penthouse existence. He turned to face her fully. "Because when you looked at me in that ER, you saw a worried son, not a monster. Because you risked your career to warn me about the poisoning. Because you touched my mother with kindness when you could have just done your job and walked away." His voice softened. "Because in my entire life, only 2 women have ever looked at me like I was worth something beyond what I could do for them, my mother and you." Kelly's breath caught. "Joo Min, I know I shouldn't feel this way. I know you're smart enough to stay away from men like me. But I'm also selfish enough to hope you won't." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a loose curl behind her ear. "I'd like to see you again. Properly. A real date, not hospital break room dinners." She should say no. Everything in her screamed danger, run, protect yourself. But his touch was so gentle, and his eyes held such naked hope. And she had her own darkness, her own desperation. Maybe 2 broken people could understand each other. "One date," she whispered. "But you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise you'll be honest with me. I don't need to know every detail, but don't lie to me. I've had enough of men who lie." Pain flickered across his face. "Someone hurt you?" "That's not your question to ask." "Not yet." "Fair enough." He squeezed her hand gently. "I promise. No lies between us." It was a promise they'd both come to regret, because the truth was so much worse than any lie. As she climbed out of the car, Kelly felt like she was standing on a cliff's edge, about to jump without knowing if there was water or rocks below. "Good night, Joo Min." "Good night, Kelly. Sleep well." She wouldn't. Because as she walked into her apartment building, she saw a familiar car parked across the street. A police cruiser. And leaning against it, watching her with cold eyes, was Harris. Her ex-boyfriend. Her tormentor. The man who held her debts like a noose around her neck. He raised his phone to his ear, never breaking eye contact with her, and she knew he'd seen everything. Seen her with Joo Min, seen the expensive car, seen the way Joo Min had touched her face. And Harris, being Harris, would find a way to use it. Kelly's hands shook as she unlocked her apartment door. She'd just stepped into something far more dangerous than she'd realized. Because now she was caught between 2 different kinds of criminals, one who wanted her money, and one who was starting to want her heart. She didn't know which was more dangerous. The next 3 days passed in a blur of shifts and anxiety. Kelly avoided Harris's calls, ignored his texts, and tried to pretend she didn't see his cruiser following her to and from work. She picked up extra shifts, trying desperately to scrape together the $5,000 she owed, knowing it was hopeless. On the third day, Joo Min texted, "Dinner tonight? There's a place I want to show you." She should have said no. Should have cut ties before things got more complicated. But she was drowning, and he felt like the only solid thing in her collapsing world. "Yes. Pick me up at 8. I'll be there." At 7:30, there was a knock on her apartment door. Kelly opened it, expecting Joo Min early. Instead, Harris pushed his way inside, closing the door behind him. "Hello, Kelly. Miss me?" Harris Chen had once been handsome in a clean-cut, all-American way. Now, at 35, he developed the hard edges of a man who'd seen too much and liked it too much. His police uniform was crisp, his badge gleaming, but his eyes were cold. "Get out, Harris. Now, is that any way to greet an old friend? Especially when you owe said friend a significant amount of money?" He walked further into her small apartment, making himself comfortable on her couch. "Payment was due today, Kelly. I don't see a check. I need more time. You've had 6 months. My associates are getting impatient." He pulled out his phone, showing her a photo. It was her, getting into Joo Min's Mercedes. "But it looks like you found yourself a sugar daddy. That's Shin Joo Min, by the way. In case you didn't know. He runs one of the biggest Korean crime organizations in Detroit." Kelly's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play stupid. It's beneath you." Harris stood, moving closer. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to use your new boyfriend to get me information. Organization structure, territory, shipment schedules. Everything. I'm not a spy, Harris. I'm a doctor. You're a doctor with crushing debt who's been fucking a criminal. Do you know what happens to your medical license when that comes out? Do you know what happens to doctors who associate with known mobsters?" He smiled, and it was cruel. "You lose everything. Your license, your career, your precious reputation. Your little sister's college fund that you've been contributing to. Gone. Your grandmother's care facility payments. Stopped. Everything you've worked for, destroyed. You bastard. I'm a pragmatist." He moved to the door. "You have 2 choices. Work with me, or I expose you and your criminal boyfriend to everyone, the medical board, the FBI, the press. Your choice. Oh, and Kelly. I'll need that first information drop by next week. Details about Shin's operations. Or the price goes up to $10,000. He left, and Kelly collapsed against the door, her entire body shaking. This couldn't be happening. She wasn't a spy. She wasn't equipped for this. But Harris was right about one thing: she had too much to lose. Her career, her sister's future, her grandmother's care. Everything she'd sacrificed for, everything she'd worked toward, could be destroyed in an instant. Her phone buzzed. "Joo Min, on my way up. Ready?" Kelly looked at herself in the mirror, eyes red, hands shaking, the weight of impossible choices crushing her chest. She had 20 seconds to decide what to do. Tell Joo Min the truth and risk him cutting her off, or worse, thinking she'd approached him deliberately. Keep silent and become the spy Harris wanted, betraying a man who'd been nothing but kind to her. Or find a third option she couldn't see yet. The knock on her door came. Kelly took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and made a choice. She'd tell Joo Min everything. Not because it was smart, but because he'd promised honesty and she'd promised the same. Because if they were going to have any chance at anything real, it couldn't be built on lies. She opened the door. Joo Min stood there in dark slacks and a charcoal sweater, looking unfairly handsome. His smile faded immediately when he saw her face. "Kelly, what's wrong? Come in. We need to talk." He entered, concern etched in every line of his body. "Are you okay? Did something happen? Sit down. Please." She closed the door, locked it, and turned to face him. "Joo Min, I need to tell you something. And after I tell you, you're probably going to leave and never speak to me again. But I promised honesty, so here it is." She told him everything. The student loans, her grandmother's medical bills, the desperate decision to borrow money 6 months ago. Harris, the loan sharks connected to Detroit's underworld. The debt that had ballooned to $5,000. Harris's visit 20 minutes ago, the threats, the ultimatum. By the time she finished, she was crying, not delicate tears but ugly, exhausted sobs. "So that's it. I'm not some innocent doctor. I'm a woman drowning in debt to criminals, being blackmailed by my ex-boyfriend to spy on you. I understand if you want nothing to do with me. I wouldn't blame you." She waited for him to leave, to lash out, to show disgust. Instead, Joo Min did something unexpected. He laughed. Not cruelly, but with genuine, dark amusement. This ex-boyfriend. Harris Chen. Former narcotics officer, now working in organized crime division. Kelly looked up, shocked. "How did you?" "Because Harris Chen is on my payroll. He's a dirty cop who feeds information to 3 different organizations, including mine. He plays all sides, collects from everyone, and thinks he's clever." Joo Min's expression hardened. "What he doesn't know is that I've been waiting for an excuse to eliminate him. He's too greedy, too reckless. He was going to become a problem eventually." "Wait, what?" Kelly's mind reeled. "You know Harris?" "Not personally, but I know of him. And now he's made his biggest mistake, he's touched something of mine." The possessiveness in Joo Min's voice sent shivers through her. "You're not angry? At me? Angry that you're in debt?" "No. Angry that you didn't tell me sooner?" "A little." "But Kelly," he moved to kneel in front of her, taking her hands. "You're not the villain in this story. You're a woman who made a desperate choice to help your family. I understand that better than anyone. But Harris wants me to spy on you. Then we'll use that." His mind was already working, she could see it. "We'll feed him false information. Make him think he's getting what he wants. Meanwhile, I'll have Lee Suk investigate exactly who Harris is working for, who's backing his operation. I can't ask you to do this. You're not asking. I'm offering." He squeezed her hands. "Kelly, that debt you owe. It's gone. I'll handle it tonight. Harris will be dealt with by the end of the week. And you never have to worry about this again." "Joo Min, I can't let you." "Yes, you can. Because here's the truth, I've been looking for a reason to trust you completely, and you just gave it to me. You could have kept this secret, could have tried to use me. Instead, you told me everything, knowing it might destroy what's between us." He pulled her close. "That kind of honesty is rare in my world. I'm not letting it go." Kelly buried her face in his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "I'm scared. I know. But you're not alone anymore." He held her tight. "We'll handle this together. But Kelly, you need to understand something, once we do this, once I step in, you're in my world. Completely. There's no going back to your normal life." "Normal life?" She laughed bitterly. "I haven't had a normal life since my parents died when I was 16. I've been surviving, scrambling, fighting every day. Maybe it's time I stopped fighting alone. Then let me fight with you." He pulled back to look at her face. "But right now, we have a date. And I won't let Harris ruin it. Get dressed. Something comfortable. I'm taking you somewhere. Joo Min, trust me. And she did. God help her, she did. 30 minutes later, they were on a private rooftop in downtown Detroit, one of his properties. The city spread below them like a carpet of lights, beautiful and brutal. A table had been set up with candles, wine, and the dinner he'd promised. How did you arrange all this? Kelly asked, amazed. I made a call while you were getting ready. I have people. He pulled out her chair. Sit. Eat. For the next 2 hours, we're not talking about Harris or debts or danger. We're just two people getting to know each other. That's not reality, though. Then let's pretend. Just for tonight. And she did. They ate, talked, laughed. He told her about his father's death when he was 23, about the brutal years that followed. She told him about raising her younger sister after their parents died, about medical school while working 3 jobs. They discovered they both loved old movies, both hated mushrooms, both had a weakness for really bad puns. When dinner was finished, he led her to the edge of the rooftop where glass panels kept them safe. My father built our organization on blood and fear, Joo Min said quietly. When he died, I was barely trained, drowning in enemies who sensed weakness. I did what I had to do to survive, to protect my mother, to hold our territory. You were so young. I grew up fast. Had to. His arms tightened around her. I became exactly what the job required, cold, ruthless, untouchable. I've made decisions that keep me awake at night. Hurt people who probably deserved it and some who didn't. Built an empire on things that would make you sick. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand what you're getting into. If you stay with me, Kelly, there will be danger. People will try to use you against me. My world is brutal, and it doesn't forgive softness. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest. You deserve the truth before you get in too deep. Joo Min. She cupped his face, her touch so gentle it hurt. I'm already in deep. I think I have been since that night in the ER. You should run. Smart women run from men like me. Good thing I've never been that smart. She smiled, then turned serious. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise you'll keep me informed. Not about business specifics, but about dangers. If I'm going to be with you, I need to know when I'm at risk. Don't hide things to protect me. That's how people get hurt. It went against every instinct. His entire existence was about controlling information, protecting assets, keeping vulnerabilities hidden. But she was looking at him with such trust. I promise, he whispered. And then he kissed her. It was their first kiss, soft at first, tentative, then deepening into something that felt like falling and flying simultaneously. Kelly made a small sound of surprise and pleasure, her hands sliding up to tangle in his hair. Joo Min pulled her closer, pouring weeks of wanting into the contact. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Wow, Kelly managed. Yeah. Joo Min rested his forehead against hers. I'm falling for you, Kelly Parks. Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me this is moving too fast and I'll slow down. But please don't tell me you don't feel this too. I feel it, she whispered. God help me, I feel it too. They stayed on that rooftop until dawn, wrapped in each other, talking about everything and nothing. And for the first time in his brutal life, Shin Joo Min felt something he'd never experienced before, hope. For the first time in her exhausting life, Kelly Parks felt like she wasn't drowning alone. What neither of them knew was that Harris had been watching from the street below with a telephoto lens, documenting everything. And he was already making calls to people far more dangerous than either of them realized. Can Kelly escape Harris's deadly blackmail, or will she be forced to betray the man she's falling for? Watch part 2 to discover the shocking choice Kelly makes, and the devastating betrayal no one sees coming. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the explosive continuation.